I want to move on to another issue, which is appreciating differences in communication style. And this is very important. People have very different styles of communicating. And in fact, there are, literally hundreds of styles of communication. But there are two huge warring camps in the styles of communication. And these are the two big camps that get people in the most trouble. And put most simply, one style is more direct, the other style is more indirect. It's a whole lot more complicated than that, but I just want to start by giving you that idea that one style, one whole school of communication is a more direct style and the other is more indirect. And there are three key differences between the direct style and the indirect style. And as with the autonomy and intimacy scale, again, it is not that either of these styles is wrong. They're both perfectly appropriate and good styles of communication, but it's what you believe your partner's behavior means. It's how you interpret their style of communication and what it means that creates communication problems. So I want to talk about the three different styles, the three differences in these two major styles. The more direct style of communication, people who have that style tend to communicate quite in a straightforward way. They say what they want to say. They're very explicit about saying what they believe, what they feel, what they need, and what they want. They ask directly for what they want, and they ask the other person directly what their opinion is or what they need or want, what they're willing to give or do. And the person who communicates with a very indirect style, they have a much more subtle approach. They will probably kind of beat around the bush a little bit rather than come out directly and say how they feel or what they want. They will be much more likely to create a lot of space by being deferential and speaking in a way that they may say several different things that are not that important before they get to the thing that actually is important. So that's one difference, is just the direct language versus indirect, subtle, kind of nuanced approach. The second difference is that the more direct style, people tend to be animated, passionate, use very personalized language, and language that is often value-laden or judgment-laden. They may use words that are somewhat confrontational. They ask very direct questions and make very direct demands. And the person who has the more indirect style is much more likely to utilize the more impersonal, neutral words as well as more neutral tones. They tend to avoid using any words that have kind of a value judgment. They tend to use very neutral terms and very neutral tones. And they often use very impersonal language that is more general. And then the third big difference between the direct style and indirect is the people who use a direct style tend to talk louder and faster. It's the tempo and the volume are louder and faster. The person with the indirect style tends to talk more slowly and more softly. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with either of these styles, and there are 100 different reasons why one person may feel more comfortable with one style than the other, from their family background, their ethnic background, their culture, their country of origin, their gender, their class background, any number of reasons why they have come to feel comfortable with one style or the other. But the problem is created because the people who use one style distrust the other style and vice versa, and have some very strong judgments about what it means. For instance, someone like me, who's kind of a totally direct style kind of person, we tend to think that we are communicating so well because we're being so honest and straightforward. We're putting all our cards on the table, and we're just letting the person know what we think and feel. And we're passionate and animated because we care about the issues, and we care about the relationship, and we care about the other person, and we're eager to resolve the issue. However, the people with the indirect style have told me, you're pushy, obnoxious, confrontational, you bully me. You're just trying to force us into submission to go along with what you want. You're not leaving any room for anyone else to have an opinion. So these are things I've heard tossed my way, and I think it's a pretty typical kind of difference in the way people see this. And so that creates distrust, and it makes it very difficult for people to communicate. So if you can decide, well, I'm not going to attack someone for their style. I'm going to try to see them as coming to this with good intentions. Because, for instance, as I say, I think because I'm direct, I'm being honest and straightforward, and I'm, just very open, and the other person thinks, I'm a big bully. And their belief is that being indirect and nuanced shows respect and deference, and shows that they care about the people involved, and that they're trying to make room for other people to have another opinion. They want to make sure that no one feels they're being pressured or coerced, and so they're being very indirect in order to leave that space for other people to voice their opinion. However, someone like me could easily think that someone who's that indirect, I don't trust you because you're not being honest about what you want. You're not saying what you want, and you're not saying what you're willing to do, and you're driving me crazy with all this beating around the bush with saying all this stuff that it's not really about the issue at hand, and when you're not really getting to the point, Or I could feel, well, they're kind of timid, and they're not willing to stand up for what they want, and they must not really care about this issue, or because they talk in such neutral terms, and neutral tones, that must mean they don't really have an opinion really on the issue. It's not important to them. So you can see how this could create serious problems in a couple where one person has one style and one has the other. And some people end up just distrusting each other and even breaking up because they really cannot come to any agreement on how to communicate. One person feels they're just trying to be straightforward. The other person feels you're trying to bully me into going along with what you want. The other person feels, wow, you just won't even be honest about what it is you want, and you won't tell me. And so how can I resolve this with you if you won't really tell me what you are thinking or feeling?